You're adopted, grafted, natural, spiritual, heirs, joint heirs. I say greetings. You see this subject here is called the debate of whom are the real Israelites, because there seems to be always a debate, and you watch a lot of channels. People are attacking people on who are the real Israelites, and it goes back and forth. First of all, I like debates. I like discussion. I like dialogue. And the reason why I like dialogue is because you get to hear people's views and their perspectives on what they study and what they read. And the fact that there is a debate on who are Israel or who are the real Israelites is a good discussion. It's a very good discussion. I'm glad that the subject is out there. And here's why I'm glad that the debate or the subject, or it is of a subject of discussion. It's not divisive, number one. Number two, it's educational. And let me tell you why I'm glad that there's a discussion on who are the real Israelite debate. Because number one, it's the reality that at least those who say that they are Jewish, it leads or lends to the understanding that perhaps that they are not the right people. They're not the correct nationality. And so that's why it's good to have the debate, because if that was conclusive, then there would not be a debate on the subject on whom are the real Israelites. So that's good that there's a discussion on the subject. I'm really glad about that. So let's have the discussion. Whom are the real Israelites? So I'm going to come from two different perspectives. In reality, you have a people of the Bible, a people of the book, is what I like to refer to it as. The people of the book is what everybody wants to be. Everybody knows that there is a nation, or there was a nation that God dealt with. He gave the oracles to. There were a group of people that were in Egypt that were in bondage for 400 years that he gave covenant to. He gave a written agreement on tables of stone that were written by his own finger. Now, that does not insinuate that there was not law prior to that date. There was law prior to that date, but that's a whole different discussion. But the people of the book, the Bible is written by it's written about the history of a people, okay? And everybody wants to be that people. Everybody wants to grab a hold of that identity, okay? So let me address the latter before I say who the people of that book are. Let me address the fact that if you are not physically the people of that book, if that Bible is not about your ancestral history, it does not mean that there is no salvation for you. So that's what I want to address first, because the whole debate is that whoever can identify themselves as the people of the book, some conclude that means that salvation is only for that group of people. So I'm going to address the latter end, is who is salvation for? Who can have salvation? So if you are not the ancestral history of the people of the book, meaning the people of the Bible. That's where, if that history has nothing to do with your background, it does not mean that you cannot receive salvation. Why? Because in that same book, where it is written about a group of people who became a nation and their history, that God, or the God, is the true God. Those people, that history, that those ancestral people, their God is the only true and living God and the creator of the universe. And everybody knows that. This is why everybody wants to be the people of the book. And so, again, I'm going to go back to the issue, is that people believe that because, and they know that that is the only true and living wise God, creator of the universe, ruler of all nations, they feel that I want to be that person because that's my God and he's for me and me only. But let's go back again and let's look at the reality. In that same Bible, Exodus 12:49, Numbers 9:14, you can read Isaiah, the 56th chapter. There's several and many, many others. Paul tried to explain this when he talked about who is a Jew. Is it one inwardly circumcision of the heart or that of the flesh? He tried to explain it. People sometimes get it mixed up, and I'm going to address that. But whomever, no matter what nationality you are, no matter what the color of your skin is, anybody that wants to establish covenant with the Most High and adhere to the same holy scriptures that was given to the people of the book, whomever they are, according to that book, according to the law of that book, you are whether you come in as a stranger or a sojourner, you have the same inheritance that the people of the book have. And that's scripture. I can't change that. You can't change that. Whenever we discuss who are the real people of the book, those people, they cannot change it. The imposters who are saying that they're Israel, because again, the reason why this is a discussion is because people are coming to the reality that those who say they're Jews, perhaps they're really not the real Jews. But it doesn't matter. There's a law in that book that was for the people of the book. And in that law, it said, anybody who wants to sojourn with Israel, the people of the book, as long as they keep the same laws of the people of the book, the people of the Holy Scriptures, they too, the Almighty would shine his face upon them as well. That's scriptures. Again, we cannot change that. So let's address a couple of things. Paul tried, one thing about Paul, I like what the Apostle Peter said. He says, Paul in all of his wisdom, that he has, but most of his letters, or all of his letters, are hard to be understood, especially to those who don't understand the scriptures. So what does that mean? People who are not the people of the book don't take the time to read about the history of the people of the book. Does that make sense? This is why a lot of people don't read the Old Testament, because they're not the people of the book. Now, do I agree that they should not read the Old Testament? No, because the scripture says the law and the testimony. Everything in the New Testament is a testimony of everything in the Old Testament. What I mean by the Old Testament, a lot of us don't realize that a testament is an agreement, and the agreement is still in place today, the same agreement. So the only thing that is a change in that agreement is the sacrificial system, but the agreement is still in place. So when I say Old Testament, I should be a little bit more clear and educational to say the laws and the prophets, because a lot of people think that that's what the Old Testament is. It's the laws, it's all of those books. But an agreement is that if you be my people and don't sin, I'll be your God. It's just that simple. And I chose you, Israel, to enter into this covenant. And I chose you, Israel, to take this knowledge and this law and this way of life of righteousness and teach other nations, because it's a law of righteousness. But Israel failed to do that. That's a different video. But the point that I'm making is that a lot of people don't read the law or the prophets or the Psalms. They don't. They only go by Paul's letters. And Paul's letters can be misleading if you don't understand the prophets, the law of Moses, or the books of Moses and the Psalms. It could be very confusing. For example, Paul said a Jew is not one inwardly whose circumcision is that of the flesh, but a Jew is one whose circumcision is that of the heart. There's some validity to that statement. But in reality, circumcision of the heart has always been required by the Most High. And if you were not circumcised of the heart and the flesh, the Almighty had nothing to do with you anyway. So that's a different lesson, but you can read that over in Deuteronomy. So circumcision of the heart is nothing new, but if you don't know, if you're not the people of the book, then you don't read that part. So you kind of take Paul's letters out of context to say there is no real Israel today. Everybody's Israel. And to a certain extent, that is true. But in reality, there is a real Israel. There are the people of the book, and there are descendants of those people among us right now today. And you can't cover them up. You can't hide. The people of the book failed to do what the Most High asked them to do. They failed to do it. And because of that, Leviticus the 26th chapter and Deuteronomy the 28th chapter, there was going to be curses that would be put upon the descendants of the people of the book. And those people exist today. They're not in Israel. They're not in Israel. Where are they? Read Deuteronomy 28th chapter. Look for the signs of the curses. Look for people who were placed on a... Now I'm going to the other side. I'm going to the other side to say who are the natural people. But let me say this again to the people who are coming into the fold. What I mean by coming in, those who are not the descendants of the people of the book. If you keep the Most High's statutes, laws, judgments, commandments, feast days, if you keep that law, then you become heirs and joint heirs along with the people of the book. And that is scripture. I can't change that. Nobody can change that. That's law. Now, the people of the book, who are they? Where are they? Well, if anybody that was placed on a ship through slavery and scattered through the four corners of the earth, all about, anybody that in that movement, in that slave movement, according to the scriptures, if you had children and your children were sold in slavery right before your very eyes, and if you had a wife and another slept with her and there was no power in your might, you're the people of the book. I think that all you have to do is look in world history. There was a lot of people put in slavery. But we're looking for a special group of people. If you just really want to know who they are. Anybody that was placed into slavery and whose children were sold before their very eyes. Anybody in that same group who had a wife and the master would just sleep with her and have his way with her. And wherever those people are scattered, they're the number one in diseases everywhere. Number one in diseases. They're the number one in all sicknesses. They may be the smallest in the population, but they're the number one in most diseases. They're the number one in prison houses. According to the curse, that's what was going to happen. So when you find those people, you have found Israel. You found them. You found the descendants of the people of the book. But I must say, and I have to say this to you, even if you find those people, if they're not keeping the laws, statutes, and judgments of the Most High, if they're not keeping them, and if they don't return to Him, they are not going to receive the inheritance that was promised to the people of the book. That's reality. I hope this video has blessed you. That's really all I have to say about it. There's really no debate. It's all scriptures. Maybe one day I'll go into depth. Some of my videos go into depth about it. But I just wanted to talk about the debate of whom are the real Israelites. That's why I always say heir, joint heirs. No matter what color you are, as long as you're doing what that scripture says, you're Israel. Whether you're natural, and if you just happen to trace your bloodline and you trace your history and you're that natural descendant, that's good. But if you're not keeping the Most High, the covenant, it doesn't mean anything. Be blessed. God bless you.